Outback Stories.
Outback Stories celebrates the pioneering spirit of Australia. It makes little difference if your family came on the first fleet or on a leaky boat last week. Our unique national identity was born and bred in the Outback. These are your stories.
Farmers and graziers have a running joke that city slickers live under the belief that all food, including bread, meat and dairy, miraculously comes from the local supermarket. They could be half right, in that city people rarely acknowledge the massive investments and skills required to put tucker on their tables.
With changing times, especially in the way that we look at climate, resources, labour, and the increasing costs of bringing produce to market, new respect is now being given to those who work on the land.
If any one historical figure stands firm to represent the typical Australian bushworker, it is the Outback Stockman. Often characterised as lean, sunburnt, awkward with the opposite sex, and, possibly, when on the rantan, a bit of a larrikin. He is, at the same time, seen as an exceptionally skilled rider, practical, plain talker, expert stock handler, and determinedly hard worker. After the hysteria of the Australian gold rushes settled down in the early 1870s, it was the sheep and cattle industries that led the way for our colonial economic boom ride for the next 30 years. It was the new gold, and we rode high on the backs of sheep and cattle, with world record exports of wool and beef.
I'm a stockman to me trade, they call me Ugly Dave. I'm old and I'm grey and I've only got one eye. In the yard I'm good of course, but put me on a horse, I'll go where lots of young'uns dare and try.
Stockmen were, and still are, expected to be expert all-rounders. The drovers responsible for moving herds across the country had their skills, but once the sheep and cattle were in home territory, the stockmen and station hands took over. There were horses to be broken, working dogs to be trained, cattle to be fed, watered, and moved from paddock to paddock. Calves needed extra care. Then there was mustering, branding, castrating, vaccinating, and preparation for market. The boundary rider was a particular type of stockman. In a country as wild and large as Australia, maintaining boundary fences has always been important. It is the boundary rider's job to regularly inspect and repair these fences.
We used to call the boundary riders lizards. We reckon they spent a good part of their day sitting in the sun.
Tending sheep was just as demanding as cattle, and, of course, in season, they needed extra care, particularly during lambing, shearing, dipping, ear tagging, and marking. The men, and in the 19th century they were mainly men, worked long hours in often harsh conditions.
The working day, well, it was from sparrow fart until the job was done.
The shearing shed usually had a boss of the board, and the cattle station a head stockman.
The title ringer was given to the fastest or gun shearer, and also sometimes to the head stockman. In both cases, they reported to the manager, the boss.
There were other colonial station workers, some itinerants and others employed full-time. Sheep washers, well sinkers, fencers, rabbiters, doggers, and of course shearers, roustabouts, cooks, wool classers and transport drivers. The large station house, often jokingly referred to as Government House, also had staff, often a storekeeper, bookkeeper, and a husband and wife domestic team. Indigenous Australians played a large part in the development of the cattle industry and are still highly regarded as all-rounder stockmen and drovers.
The Stockmen of Australia, what rowdy boys are they? They will curse and swear a hurricane if you come in their way. They dash along the forest on black, bay, brown or grey. And the Stockmen of Australia, hard-riding boys are they.
The stockman's life is one in which danger is ever present. It is a life where the presence of mind, coupled with an iron nerve, are essential if the stockman is to avoid serious injury or death. To these men, thrashing hooves or charging steers are just part of a day's work. They know what to do in these emergencies, and they do it. To fail once may mean the end of their riding and working days. The breaking in of wild horses, brumbies or broncos is a necessary and particularly dangerous job. The challenge of cornering a mob, then running them home is a difficult one. The wiry broncs are possessed of a lively sixth sense, which often sets them away in a mad dash long before the horsemen arrive.
Well, the boss, he came to the old hut door, and he said, as he'd often said before, "Righto, boys, on your way, today it is mustering day, early in the morning, early in the morning, early in the morning, before the break of day."
When the mob is eventually yarded, the dangers and thrills of breaking in begin. Hoots and hollers and lassoes whistle through the air. The wild-eyed creature is hauled to a solid object and secured. He is seized in a headlock, blindfolded and hobbled. Following this, the blindfold is removed and the wild horse takes his first lesson. Both man and animal must respect each other. The stockman's dread, a stampede, happens often. Restless cattle, which have been mustered to a strange locality, will stampede at the slightest provocation. By night it is doubly dangerous. Furious night riding can mean anything. Trees, creeks, fox and wombat burrows, and fences, all are traps to the rider. But above all, there is the danger of getting in front of the herd and trampled to a horrible death. Stockmen know mustered cattle also have a nasty habit of charging men who happen to be on foot. After long journeys without water, cattle will stampede at a whiff of the liquid. The crazed beasts need to be held back, but in so doing, the stockman faces grave danger. On numerous occasions, both horse and rider have been found dead, victims of a water stampede. As if his work is not enough, the stockman fills in his spare time rough riding for sport. Rough riding, either at station yards or a bushman's carnival or rodeo, is considered a mark of honour. Many stockmen now follow the American fashion when participating in rodeo events, but the aim is the same: to stay on the bullock or outlaw horse. It's easier said than done. The first competitive bushman's display riding carnivals appeared in the 1880s and remain popular. One of the largest turnouts for a bushman's carnival occurred at Adelaide's Jubilee Oval in 1932 to mark the 75th birthday of Sir Sidney Kidman. Organisers expected 5,000, but nearly 50,000 people turned up.
I'm telling you, when stockmen go on the spree, the whole town lights up.
Kidman, surely one of Australia's finest bushmen, declared, "Australia's stockmen are the finest in the world. Our stock horses can turn on a plate and can single out a cow in a matter of minutes." Stockmen still ride across Australia's vast continent. Women have broken through the grass ceiling to join the workforce, and although the horse and dog are still to be seen, so are four-wheel drive paddock bashers, motorbikes and helicopters. Despite the changes, the spirit of the man from Snowy River lives on.
The Stockmen of Australia, what rowdy boys are they? They will curse and swear a hurricane if you come in their way. They dash along the forest on black, bay, brown or grey. And the Stockmen of Australia, hard riding boys are they.